Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Yemi and Bimbo Davids. We are continuing with our special guests that we've had in the past few episodes. Our first daughter,
Pelumi. Hi everyone, my name is
Pelumi
Pelumi.
Davids. So we have another interesting conversation this evening. Share, like, subscribe, be a part of our conversations family and invite other people as well.
Conversations.
So, Pelumi, we've been meaning to talk about this for a while now, and mixed feelings. So, myself and my husband are pastors. We've been pastors for about 21 years, and so our daughters were born as there's a phrase, PKs, right?
Yes.
Pastors' kids, preachers' kids. So, yeah, I don't like using that word because I don't like the label PK, but it's the reality that they are children of pastors and all. And we've had reports, we've heard stories of other pastors' kids and how they navigated or how they journeyed through that reality. So, Pelumi, you're a pastor's child.
Yes.
How has it been? How is it being a pastor's child?
Well, I think now it is better, but starting out, especially as the firstborn, I think it was quite difficult being a pastor's daughter or pastor's child. I think first of all is the idea that your parents are not just your parents, because you see a lot of people calling my daddy, or mommy or mama, and I'm like, yeah, that's my own daddy. And at first you find it funny, but I think when it's not addressed, it can get very. It can make the children feel like they don't know why it's like that sometimes, and they have to give themselves their own answers. I think a lot of times pastors' children are answering their own questions because the parents and the pastors
I'm
are.
not talking about it.
Yes. And I think when there's pastors are part of a family, and I think they should also remember that family is also, I won't say called, but it's everyone is giving a title, not just the parents. The children are now titled pastors' kids, and that also comes with a set of responsibilities that aren't talked about. That's why you always hear pastors' children are the worst. I know in Nigeria they say that the pastors' kids are the worst type of kids because they see that pastors' kids are the naughtiest of the bunch. And I think it's because there's a lack of attention, just a number of things that are not being addressed adequately.
Conversations.
For the first time, I just realized that she said, that being our daughter and having other people also call us my spiritual father, my spiritual mother, or my daddy. We try not to do that in our own church in that sense, but people do. But I didn't. It just dawning on me that for a young child, hearing other people call your parents, so they feel like there's no exclusivity with them. That means I'm not special, really, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I never, this is the first time I'm really thinking about that, okay, true. So I'm not the pastor's child, but for them, they're, so as a child, I remember enjoying that bond that, this is my dad, this is my mom. But for them, it's different because everybody calls your parents dad, spiritual mom. So, and she said, that because we don't talk about it, they have to answer their own questions, and which is something that has, affected a lot of pastors' kids. We tend to think that automatically they should understand, they should know that because the pastor is called, the child should understand that my my father is called, my mom is called, God called them, so they should just automatically just enter into that space of knowing how they should behave, knowing about church, even, I just realized, I remember there was a conversation we had some years ago where we had to explain why we had to go to church, we had to be in church a lot. And I just felt that they needed to understand, because sometimes you just feel they should know, they should understand, but they don't. The same way a child, a normal child, a child that doesn't have pastors as parents would ask, they have the right to also ask and question why their parents, they are not the ones called. God did not call them, except God did.
But
right?
I think when the pastor, especially a pastor that has a family, I feel like the family is also called. You might not be preaching on the altar, but we are giving a title, and whether we like it or not, people will look to us for influence. Whether, like in children's church or in teens church, they wouldn't look at me the same way they look at other teenagers. And it's kind of the
But isn't that an
calling.
unrealistic expectation?
Yes and also no. I think it's not an expectation that can be cured or can just be,
Yeah.
oh, it's just a matter of just how they expect a lot from the pastors. They also expect that, oh,
Their
charity
children.
kind of starts at home, so the children should act right. And I think a lot of African pastors, because I think I see it more in Africa, they automatically, they don't pay attention to their own children's relationship with God. Like they are preaching in church, but they're not preaching at home. So their children are neglected, and their children's spiritual lives are also neglected. That's why a lot of pastors' children, they will always say, oh, I'm never going to be a pastor. Why is that? Why is it like, I always wonder, like, a lot of pastors' children, they ask them, oh, you don't want to be a pastor? And the, like, immediately, like, no, no, no. There's like almost a trauma linked to that.
I guess it's just because if you ask us to when we were younger, we would have said the same thing, that you want to be a pastor, and we say no, because we just feel that sense of, there's a sense of responsibility, of accountability that comes as a pastor generally. So it's something that children, young people will not necessarily say, oh yes, I want to be a pastor in that sense, except now that there's a lot of in that, but I understand, so I think everything has to do with, or most, the what we should be talking about as pastors in our family is, or in families, is that place of conversation. Understanding that your child or your children will not necessarily get the the calling. So there are different kinds of pastors and ministers and preachers. There are people that are evangelists, there are people that are in church. So, but sometimes we just feel our children should get it.
Yeah.
But we need to, like you said, we don't pay attention. Most pastors don't pay attention to their children's spirituality because they feel it should pass down. You should know.
Yeah.
You should, but there has to be that intentionality conversation, even with us and with you, your experience. I know that there were times when she would say, I want to know God for myself. I don't want to know God because you know God. I don't want to know the God that you serve. I want to know the God that I have experienced myself. And that made me realize that, there are certain things that I can tell her as my mom, as a mom, but there are other things, there are other people that she needs to hear from. That is not just her parents, that because her parents are pastors. So I would ensure that, go to teens church, hear from other people, adults, go to other Christian events, and curate your own experience with God. Have it for yourself. So it's not like it's because your parents are pastors, right?
Yeah.